Hey everybody, before we get into today's video, I just want to kind of have a sit down and have a little talk with you guys real quick. Uh, my YouTube channel is not very big by any stretch of the means. I've got, I think, 87 subscribers as it sits right now. People have more people in their college lectures than are currently tuned in to the content that I'm making. That being said, I do have a platform that I can potentially use for good, and that's what I'm going to attempt to do. It has come to my It has recently come to my attention that there are multiple people in my unit, people that I have deployed with, that have gotten cancer diagnoses. I'm not going to get into details. I'm not going to give you names. I'm not going to give you specific stuff. But every one of these guys are my age. They're in their early to mid-30s. Joe Biden passed a bill a few years ago called the PACT Act. And what the PACT Act does is it allows veterans to seek treatment for conditions that were caused via Agent Orange exposure, if you're a Vietnam era veteran, or burn pit exposure, if you are a Global War on Terror veteran. If you guys have veterans in your life, it doesn't matter who they are, whether they're your brother, your sister, mom, dad, your children, or if it's just some random security guard that you work with or potentially babysit for. If you have veterans in your life, please urge them to get into the VA and to potentially start getting treatment for any kind of conditions or ailments that may be affecting them, especially if they're from their service, especially if they're service related. Like I said, these guys that are from my unit, these are guys that I deployed with, and while we might not have all been at the same location, due to the specific mission set of what our deployment was, these are all still guys that I feel really close to, that I feel really attached to. Urge your veterans to get help. It's the only way that they're going to be able to stick around for as long as they have. I've lost far too many friends already for conditions and issues that are treatable, and I really don't want to lose any more. And I'm 100% sure that you guys probably feel the same way. Please urge your veteran friends to get help. Let them know that you love them, that you care for them. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this, guys. Let's go ahead and move on with our video. Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today, we're going to be doing updates on, 5 of our meads. We are going to be taking the fruit out of our pineapple jalapeno, and we are going to be checking the gravity levels of our blackberry cherry vanilla, our traditional, our chocolate coffee caramel, and our brown sugar cinnamon. We're going to see where the gravities are. Gravity! And hopefully that'll give us a general idea on when these will be done. Now, as you can see, the traditional, well, just in case you can't see, the traditional is bubbling fairly regularly. I think that one's probably not quite done yet. We're going to check it anyways. I'm not seeing a whole lot of bubbles out of the blackberry cherry, and as a matter of fact, I'm seeing a whole lot of leaves or sediment on the bottom. Not seeing a whole lot of bubbling out of the brown sugar cinnamon. That, once again, could be because just how high the starting gravity was, it may have stalled. If that is the case, we'll see what we can do. We definitely don't want it to finish too sweet, so we might have to end up sacrificing a little and diluting it, or seeing if maybe we can re-kickstart that fermentation. And then the chocolate coffee caramel is also still bubbling, but nowhere near as much as the traditional. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and just get into it. We're going to be taking the fruit out of the pineapple jalapeno. So we're going to go ahead and just break this one open. I believe that this one has been sitting long enough. We're just going to go with it. Now, I do got a bag here that's already full of pineapple from the mead before. Put this stuff in there, and then I'm going to freeze it. And then, hey, we got a snack, kind of like moonshine cherries or whatever, if you guys are from that generation. Also, this could just be something I give to my friend Christine. Once again, do want to give her a shout out. She is doing jellies and jams and preserves, whatever you want to call it. The downside is that this has cleared up phenomenally once again, but because of all the fruit sitting on the bottom, we're probably going to end up stirring up that lees, which means we're going to have to go through the whole cycle of letting it clear again. Normally, I would just rack it off there. I'm out of fermentation vessels, which is why we're doing this instead of filming another mead. But have no fear, I've got more fermentation vessels coming tomorrow. So next week we will be right back to our regular schedule of making more meads. So with this one, if you do remember, we did add 2 extra pounds of pineapple, 2 extra jalapenos, just to help bolster that flavor profile. Now, something I did learn along the way is that you should probably make sure that you're going to add, if you want to add fruit in secondary, add your fruit before you back sweeten. You're going to run the risk of the mead being too sweet if you don't. I gave a couple samples of the meads to a friend of mine who is also a home brewer. And she did say that while she liked the mixed berry one, it was definitely too sweet for her taste. So now for these ones right here, like our pineapple jalapeno, any of these that are done that do need to be racked into secondary, I have more fermentation vessels coming. We're going to do a video of that next week, just racking everything in the secondary that needs to be in secondary. And then we'll still have vessels for making meads. I was going to say I think that's all of it, but no, apparently it's not. 2 pounds is a lot of pineapple, y'all, just in case you didn't know. Every time I think I've hit the bottom,
that's what she said,
or I've hit the peak, more pineapple comes up. So
that's what she said.
And I think we're good right there. Oh, there's a piece of pineapple, or jalapeno. Oh, and a piece of pineapple. Jesus Christ, apparently not. All right, y'all, we're going to call that because this one is already back sweetened and everything. We already know the gravities. We already know everything. Pop this back on. Move it out of the way. We're just going to kind of go in order. So we're going to start with our brown sugar cinnamon mead. This is the one that when we initially made it, it had a stupid high specific gravity. I miscalculated the brown sugar that I put in there and the honey. So we had a starting gravity over a month ago of 1.165, which would have left us with the potential of 22.275% ABV. We're going to go ahead and take a gravity reading of it. Like I said, if this isn't dry or, Jesus Christ, it is way too high, then we're going to have to see about potentially either A, diluting it. Doesn't smell like vinegar, so that's a plus. And our gravity on this is now 1.070. We haven't even dropped 100 points of gravity, which is kind of upsetting. It looks like this is potentially stalled. We're going to let this one sit as it is for right now. I'm going to do some research and see what we can potentially do. We might be able to restart fermentation. If not, I think honestly the best route to go is maybe to sacrifice a little bit of this. What I would normally like to do is, like I did with the pineapple jalapeno, split it actually into 2 batches and then call it good. So we cut it in half a gallon in one vessel, half a gallon in the other, and then add water. But I don't have the fermentation vessels for that right now. So I'm going to look into options for potentially restarting fermentation or hopefully kickstarting fermentation. And I will let you know what I decide. On top of that, all the gravity readings at the end of the video, we're going to go over every single one of them. And we're going to find out what their current gravities are. I mean, the next one to grab is our traditional. So we're going to go ahead and grab this one. And same thing, we're going to take a gravity reading. Now this one, it looks like we did 2 weeks ago. So 1, 18, 25. So we're gonna go ahead and take a gravity reading on this one. Now the traditional had a starting gravity of 1.097, which would have made this one roughly 12.7%. Looks like a 1.064, which this one in 2 weeks has only dropped 33 points of gravity. But it is also still actively fermenting, so I do think that we are, at least right now, we're good on this one. It's an active ferment. We don't need to mess around with it or do anything of the nature, so we're just gonna let this one go. For those of you that are new to home brewing or relatively inexperienced, I understand that there are handles on these carboys. Do not pick your carboys up by the handle when these are full. You do run the risk of breaking it. You don't want to do that. You want these things to last as long as possible, so when you do have to lift it, lift from the bottom and by the neck at the same time. Next is our chocolate coffee caramel. This is one that changed gravities on us. Gravity. So initially when we started this one on 1227, I might not have mixed it up well enough. It looked like we had a starting gravity of 1.084. I went back and checked it 3 days later, and it was at a 1.096. Hopefully the gravity hasn't gone up, and that's why it's very important to be careful and make sure that you are properly mixing these every time you do them. Take a gravity reading. So if we go based off of 1.096, I don't know what that was. I never went back and did the math on that. So we'll, once again at the end of the video, we will have the numbers here in just a little bit. $1.034. All right, and it looks like this one is definitely still fermenting, so we're gonna let it keep chugging along. And our final one is our blackberry cherry vanilla. We've got a lot of lees on the bottom, so I am hopeful that this one is potentially done. We had an initial starting gravity of 1.100. Like I said, because of the fruit cap and everything, I wasn't able to get a good sample. Went back the next day, everything had separated a lot better. Took the sample again, I got the same reading. So, looks like that was a good reading. The blow-off tube did its job. We didn't have any eruptions or anything like that. Smells like cough medicine. Oh well, let's go ahead and get a gravity reading on this one, see where this one is sitting. Like I did say, this one was sitting at a 1.100. Now, even if this one is done fermenting, I'm going to actually let this go ahead and sit on this fruit cap for probably another week, just because I want to make sure that we're getting as much of that flavor out of there as possible. And it actually looks like this one might actually be done fermenting. Nope, not quite done fermenting yet. We are sitting at a 1.002. So, still got a little bit of fermentation left to go. But this one is close. We are going to come back on Friday, double check our gravity reading. We're probably going to rack it off of the fruit cap then, and then we will see where we're going. Now, because we've got quite a substantial fruit cap, and we have quite a substantial lees, we are probably going to be adding fruit juice back into this. Going to use some more tart cherry juice. So what we have to do is take it off of this. We're going to add more juice in it then, and then we're going to take a gravity reading one more time just to see what sugar content we're putting back in there is. We're going to go ahead and, like I said, because this is pretty much done fermenting, we ain't got a whole lot left to worry about. We're going to go ahead and put an actual airlock back on it and fill it with sanitizer water. All right, guys, give me just a couple minutes. I'm going to go ahead and clean up here. We'll be right back with our final numbers, and we'll get right back into it. So stay put.
6 hours later.
Hey everybody, thanks for your patience. So, got everything cleaned up, went back, did the math. We're gonna start with our brown sugar cinnamon. So our brown sugar cinnamon started off with a specific gravity of 1.165. We then subtract our current gravity, which is a 1.070. That number we take, we multiply by 131.25, and that gives us an ABV of 12.468%. Or if you want to round it up to 12.5, that's a very respectable ABV. The issue is that the gravity is still 1.070, which means it is still far too sweet. Gravity! I believe from what I've read online, like a sweet mead is considered a gravity of like 1.025. I got to do a little more research, so don't hold me to that. But hopefully next week I'll have an actual answer for you. But I believe a sweet mead is around like 1.025. This is almost 50 points higher, which means, and it actually also exceeds that of even a dessert mead. So it's far too sweet. We're going to see what we can do to maybe jumpstart or kickstart fermentation again. And unfortunately, if we maybe have to dilute it, that's what we're going to end up doing. We definitely want to bring that down. Next up is our chocolate coffee caramel mead. The chocolate coffee caramel mead had a 1.096% or 1.096 starting gravity. When we took it today, it was a 1.034. So if we take 1.096, subtract 1.034, and then multiply that number by 131.25, that gives us an ABV of 8.13%. 1.034 is still way too sweet. But it's definitely more manageable than something like a 1.070. But I'm not looking for that high of a sweetness. So we're going to go ahead and let the chocolate coffee caramel keep doing its own thing. And we'll probably check back on that in a couple weeks. Next is our traditional. Our traditional started off with a 1.097 specific gravity. Today's gravity was 1.064. So if we go 1.097 minus 1.064, and then multiply that number by 131.25, we have got 4.33%. Once again, that one, we're just going to kind of let it do its own thing. We're going to come back. Hopefully, it will ferment dry, which with the yeast that we're using, it should. Our temperatures here in Missouri, especially past little while, we have been colder than normal. My basement is colder, so hopefully it's just the temperatures that are affecting the yeast, making them go inactive, kind of like it would if we were to cold crash it. But we will check on that here in a couple weeks and see where that is sitting. Now, the blackberry cherry vanilla, that one started with a 1.00 gravity. Today, it has a 1.002, which, so if you take 1.100, subtract 1.002, and then once again multiply that number by 131.25, we have a alcohol content of 12.86%. It's going to go a little bit higher because it's not quite dry yet. It still is an active ferment, but we're going to check on that Friday when we do our next mead, see where it's sitting, and then we're going to continue to let it sit on top of that fruit cap, hopefully extract some more of those flavors. So that's where we're sitting right now. We checked on 5 of our meads, did gravity readings on 4 of them. The blackberry cherry vanilla is probably going to be the next one. Well, yeah, so next week we are going to be racking our pineapple jalapeno and potentially our blackberry cherry vanilla into secondary. We're going to be taking it the pineapple jalapeno, taking it off the lees, and if there's any more fruit that's left floating in there, we're going to be taking that out of there as well. And then with the blackberry cherry vanilla, as long as that one is dry, we're going to go ahead and rack that off the fruit cap and off the leaves in there as well. Now, with the blackberry cherry vanilla, we are going to be adding vanilla bean into secondary. I'm thinking I probably want to add more blackberry and cherries into there just to help with that fruit flavor. So we're going to go ahead and let that sit for another couple weeks before we add the vanilla bean. I want to make sure that we get our blackberry and our cherry flavor profile as developed as possible, because I don't want to have to go in there to try to scoop out a vanilla bean and run the risk of it potentially getting too much too quickly. So we're going to go ahead and add more blackberries and cherries into secondary. Let it sit for a couple weeks. Once again, we will rack it off the fruit cap, see where it's sitting. If we need to, we will top it off with liquid. Whether that is cherry juice or water, we will see. Depends on where our flavor profile is sitting. At that point, we are going to add our vanilla. Like I said, I wanted to use vanilla bean, not use any kind of extracts or concentrates or anything for this one. And then we will test it daily to see where our vanilla profile is sitting. And as soon as we get as much vanilla in that as we want, it could be 1 day, it could be 2 days, it could be 3 weeks. We're going to have to taste it every day. Just make sure the vanilla doesn't get too overpowering. But as soon as we get the vanilla where we want it, at that point we will stabilize it, and then we will back sweeten it. Thank you guys so much for coming out today. If you guys don't watch anything more of this video or anything out of this video, please watch the introduction. Like I did say in that, we need to take care of our veterans. So if you're close to one, please talk to them. Make sure that they're getting any kind of help that they might need. They've worked very hard for it, and if they have conditions or injuries or anything like that, ailments that are caused by their time in service, please reach out to them and urge them to get help for any of those conditions that they might have. Thank you guys for joining me today. My name is Wilson. I hope to see you guys next time. You guys have a great night. Stay safe. Bye, y'all.